Hello, Cyberman here. Welcome to my second devlog video about the game I'm working on called Medieval Life. In my last video I showed you the main idea of the game. As a reminder, Medieval Life is a first-person life simulator with procedurally generated worlds set with a medieval theme. Basically it's a combination of The Sims, Minecraft and Stardew Valley. I've been developing this game for more than a year, so in this video I want to explain you the process and the algorithms I use to generate the randomly generated terrain in Medieval Life. So let's start from the basics. In this game, you, the player, will spawn in a randomly generated island. The island will contain randomly generated villages with random NPCs, and your goal will be to get a shop, get your own house and make friends with other villagers. There are a lot of games that use procedural generation to generate random worlds. The most iconic examples are Minecraft and Terraria. Those games have something in common: they use a grid. In Medieval Life, the map is represented internally as a two-dimensional grid. Each tile in the grid has 4 heights, one for each vertex. To generate the 3D terrain in Medieval Life, I use what is called a Heightmap. A Heightmap is basically a 2D representation of the 3D terrain. For example, at the left there is a Heightmap, in the middle there is the corresponding texture, and if I combine the Heightmap and the texture, I can get the 3D terrain. The problem is that I need to generate a random terrain, not a handmade one. So I use a mathematical function called perlin noise. Perlin noise was created by Ken Perlin in 1985 and is a random noise function. It means that it generates random values between 0 and 1, and it's perfect to create, for example, 3D terrains or textures or procedural generated content. So what can I make with perlin noise? Well, the first thing I can make is scale it. For example, by multiplying the noise coordinates by a constant, I can for example, get a more softer noise or a more granular noise. Another thing that I can make is give an offset to the coordinates. So for example, here I can use different offsets to shift the noise generated by that function. So yeah, once I have the Heightmap, I can generate a 3D terrain. The problem is that as you can see, the generated terrain is not very realistic and is in fact very ugly. So to improve this, I can use Fractal Noise. Fractal Noise is basically a technique where I can combine different slices, different layers of noise, each one with different scale and different amplitude. So for example, here I'm adding 4 different layers. Each layer is called an octave. And well, when I combine those 4 layers, I get a more realistic Heightmap that it resembles more like a valley or with the mountains. It's more realistic with more imperfections. So here you can see a comparison between a 3D terrain generated using purely perlin noise and a 3D terrain using fractal perlin noise with 4 octaves. As you can see, it's more realistic. So once I have the Heightmap, I generate a 3D terrain, 3D mesh for the terrain. For each pixel of the Heightmap, I get the value and generate 2 triangles. Then I assign a texture for the terrain for each quad. I use a texture map for the whole game that I generate at runtime, and here is my finished mesh. One little note is that I use a different mesh for each chunk. Each chunk in Medieval Life is 16 by 16 tiles. Once I have the 3D terrain for each chunk all converted to a mesh, I need to add the water. So I need to calculate the height for the water, and I place a plane with a 2D texture of the water, and that's all. For example, here is the same Heightmap, the same terrain, but with different water levels. So the problem here is that I can use this wall, but the player will fall off the edge of the wall, and I don't want that. And yes, in medieval times, people thought that the earth was flat, but I don't want to imply that in the game. So the solution to this is use falloff maps. So what is a falloff map? Well, a falloff map is a different type of Heightmap that I can combine with a regular noise map to generate a more island-like terrain. For example, I can combine this circular falloff map with the noise map we've been using and generate this island. For falloff map, there are a lot of different distance functions that I can use. For example, I can use a circular falloff map that generates a more circular island, or a square falloff map, or a squircle. A squircle is a mix between a circle and a square. So once I have the Heightmap for the island, I can adjust the water level. So as you can see, different water levels give different results. For example, a higher water level gives more feeling of archipelago, whereas a lower water level is more like a big square island with a lot more landmass. So another thing that I can do is combine different falloff maps to give a more sophisticated shape to the island. For example, I can combine a circular falloff map with a squircle falloff map and generate a lake in the middle of the island. For example, here I can make the opposite and instead of generating an island, generate a central lake, a giant central lake surrounded by mountains. Here you can see I made a tool for Unity to debug the different kind of Heightmaps that I use and the different properties of the terrain while I develop the game. Well, I think this is all for today. I will create more in-depth videos like this showing specific aspects of how I'm developing medieval life. So please let me know in the comments what do you want to see next. Maybe the house generation system, or the procedural tile sets, or maybe the dynamic voxel lighting system that I'm working on. I don't want to make these videos too technical, but if you're interested I can show you some code. If you liked the video and want to follow up the development of the game, please press the subscribe button. It will be very helpful for me if you subscribe to the channel so I can reach more people. So leave a like, a comment and subscribe please. So that's all. See ya!